Dzień dobry, nazywam się Aneta Kuczewska, jestem wicekonsulem w Wydziale Promocji Handlu i Inwestycji Konsulatu Generalnego w Nowym Jorku i serdecznie witam na webinarium poświęconym rynkowi turystyki medycznej w Stanach Zjednoczonych. Jest to kolejne z cyklu webinarium, które przygotowujemy dla polskich dostawców usług medycznych i w ogóle dla polskich eksporterów w celu przygotowania ich do zdobycia rynku amerykańskiego, do wejścia na rynek amerykański. Celem dzisiejszego spotkania jest uzyskanie odpowiedzi na pytanie, jak skutecznie pozyskać amerykańskiego pacjenta do placówki medycznej na określonego typu procedury czy zabiegi medyczne. Dzisiejszymi gośćmi naszymi i ekspertami naszymi będzie pani Elizabeth Zięba i pan Irving Stackpole. I teraz zmienię język na angielski, bo chciałabym przywitać naszych gości. To webinarium będzie prowadzone w języku angielskim. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Irving. I'm just switching the language so that we can understand each other. Elizabeth is president of Medical Tourism Training and co-host of the Medical Travel Show. She has developed training and consulting services based on experience in the sector, international best business practices to provide clients with evidence-based practical solutions for business development. Mr. Irving Stackpole has over 40 years of healthcare marketing experience, and he is the president of Stackpole and Associates market research and training firm founded in 1991. Welcome both of you. Thank you for joining us today, and we are looking forward to hearing what the Polish medical providers should do if they want to attract the American patients to their hospitals or medical centers. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Ms. Kuczewska, for the kind introduction. And thank you for the participants for joining us from Poland for our presentation. As you may know, the Trade and Investment section of the Polish Consulate General of New York contracted with Medical Tourism Training to conduct research into the U.S. market to provide data and information to assist Polish providers to better understand the U.S. medical tourism market. Many of you are familiar with the content of this report, but if you would like to receive a copy, please contact your colleagues at the Polish Consulate in New York. For those of you who have seen the report, you know that it is quite extensive and far too long to summarize in our brief meeting today. What we want to accomplish is to highlight some key points and suggest ways forward into the U.S. market. The presentation is designed to help Polish providers to decide if they want to enter the U.S. market, and if so, some ways to begin. So today we'll talk for about 30 minutes to discuss the characteristics of the U.S. market, what providers need to consider before entering the U.S. market, and finally a few suggestions about the best way to connect with certain segments of the U.S. market. Following the presentation, we welcome your questions and comments. My colleague Irving Stackpole will begin the formal part of the presentation with some general observations about the U.S. market. Irving?
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to be with you all here. Well, the United States market is a very large market, and I'd like to review some of the key factors about the market to keep in mind. As I said, it's a very large country, about 319 million people, while only about a third of the people in the United States have passports. Approximately 300,000 Americans visited Poland in 2013, to give you a sense of the flow of Americans to Poland. The United States health insurance system is extraordinarily complex, fragmented, and it's undergoing significant change because of the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, also called Obamacare. So healthcare services are paid for in a number of different ways with contributions from government, employers, and individuals. I'll be speaking about that a little more later in the presentation. The majority of healthcare decisions in the United States are made by women, generally between the ages of 40 and 65 years of age. The more education the woman has, the more involved she is in making those decisions. These women consumers are also significant internet users. They are very active on social media, and when they use the internet and social media to research their healthcare choices, the information is garnered fundamentally through the internet. Word of mouth is a secondary source. American consumers in general are quite demanding. They tend to be impatient, and they have very high expectations. So if you're still interested in attempting to attract patients from the United States, we don't wish to discourage you, but we do want all the Polish providers to have a deep understanding of the commitment required to attract United States patients. Next slide, please. So preparing to tackle the U.S. market requires thought and careful preparation. Some of the questions that should be asked and answered before moving forward include: what services shall we offer? Who is your preferred customer? What resources will be committed to the project and for how long? And who will partner with us as we proceed to penetrate the United States market? Who will partner with us for success? Let's look at each of these questions in more detail. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Irving. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the key questions that needs to be discussed and answered before entering the U.S. market is: what services will your organization offer? And on the screen you have an overview of the health services that are most frequently purchased by medical travelers on a global basis. This isn't specifically about the U.S. market, but it's a general reflection of the global market, which is fairly accurate about the United States as well. So the most popular services that are sought by medical travelers are cosmetic surgery, dental surgeries or dental services, including general dentistry, restorative dental services, and cosmetic dental services, followed by weight loss procedures, including lap band and gastric bypass. Reproductive services are also in demand, including fertility, IVF, and women's health in general. Then in terms of complex medical care, the next three items, cardiovascular, orthopedic, and cancer services, are also in high demand from medical travelers. And then finally, the eighth service that's sought by medical travelers are executive checkups, scans, health screenings, and second opinions. In the report, you'll see that there is information. Could we go back to the prior slide, please? In the United States, the top four services, cosmetic, dentistry, weight loss, and reproductive, are discussed in considerable detail in terms of the current demand and future projections for that demand. And as indicated in the report, the continued demand for those services is really quite high. Also, you do want to keep in mind that these are also the services that are most likely to be paid for directly by the patient or the consumer. They are very rarely covered by insurance products. So next slide, please. We find through working with different providers in this sector that they often make the mistake of not focusing on particular services that, for example, if you're a tertiary care hospital, you think that everything that you do is excellent, and that's probably, excuse me, probably quite true, but that sends a confusing message to consumers. So you really do need to be very selective about which services you're going to offer. And then also a related question is how you are going to position those services so that individuals can identify or decide that they would rather choose your services over your competitors. And in business language, this is called your unique selling proposition, your USP. And in that message, you are making it clear to consumers why they should choose your service and not your competitors. So what makes you or your organization special? Is it your location? Is it a particular procedure? Do you have a doctor who's a rock star? Or is there some other feature that produces a desirable benefit for your patients? If you go to the Medical Tourism Training website, we have a section called Resources, and in that section you'll find an article that specifically talks about creating a unique selling proposition. It sounds like it would be something very, very simple to do, but it really, sometimes the simplest things are the most difficult to accomplish. And I believe that creating a unique selling proposition that is compelling is a little bit harder than most people might assume. So who are some of your competitors? When you're talking about the American market, Americans in general are going to travel, first of all, to Mexico, because geographically it's a short drive, or a short, excuse me, a short flight across the border to Mexico, where they do offer affordable, high-quality services. The U.S. also has a long-standing relationship with Costa Rica, so many Americans go to Costa Rica for a variety of services. Another major competitor for your services is Thailand, which has a marvelous reputation as a vacation destination and has done an excellent job of leveraging that position as a tourist destination into an excellent medical tourism destination. And then finally, India is also another country where Americans often travel for their healthcare services. And just keep in mind, in terms of Mexico and India, because of the population of the United States, there are quite a few individuals who are of Mexican descent and Indian descent. They may be immigrants, they may be first or second generation descendants, but they have a cultural affinity for Mexico and India, and that's part of the reason that so much business goes to those two countries. Again, there's more information about Poland's major competitors in our report and the demand from that service. And you can learn a lot about what your competitors are doing, what they're doing well, and what some of them are doing poorly. So if you can identify some of your key competitors, you can visit their websites and social media pages to help you develop your unique selling proposition and learn from their mistakes. Next slide, please. Next, you'll need to focus on which customers you want to target. As Irving indicated at the beginning of the presentation, the U.S. is a big country, and because of the size of the potential market, but your limited resources, both human resources and financial resources, identifying which type of customer you want to reach is an incredibly important factor in moving forward. So you'll need to decide which of these customers will be the focus of your efforts. Will it be private pay individuals, or what we call business to consumer, B2C? Will you decide to work with facilitators, individuals who can help you source patients and help with some of the logistical issues of bringing individuals from another country to Poland? That would be business to business, or B2B. Or insurance companies, also business to business. Irving will talk more about insurance companies later in this presentation. But it is important to select which one of these categories will be the major focus for your resources. And then among those categories of consumers, how are you going to position yourself? Are you going to be the top price, top quality service provider? In which case you will be competing with the elite of the elite on a global basis and looking for some of the wealthiest patients in the world. While you don't have very many competitors in that sector, they generally are very well funded and are attracting the patients that are paying the most but are also the most demanding? Or are you in the affordable yet excellent quality category, where you will have a lot of competitors and you'll be competing for the broadest market? And then will you be the low cost, not cheap, good quality service provider that appeals to the no frills consumer? And just to emphasize that the language should be low cost, that you never want to describe your services as cheap. Who would want to have medical or dental services that are cheap? That implies with it that they are of low quality, and nobody wants to purchase low quality healthcare services. So the answers to these questions will drive some of the decisions that form the basis for your strategic plan. So next slide, please. So just some facts to keep in mind when deciding which customer base is the most favorable for you. Do keep in mind that most medical travelers from the United States pay for these services out of pocket. And also, as Irving mentioned, women are the healthcare decision makers, and they are active internet and social media users. So we have found through research that the majority of U.S. medical tourists do not work with a facilitator. They search the internet or follow recommendations from family and friends, as well as leveraging social media. And as Irving will discuss shortly, insurance companies are the most difficult clients to get. So next slide, please. Building a stream of patients from the United States requires planning, resources, and perseverance. I am consistently amazed at how many medical travel organizations do not have a business plan or marketing plan to use as a roadmap forward for entering any market, whether it's a smaller market or a market as complex as the United States. And as the British author Lewis Carroll said in his famous book, Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Certainly, you do want to know where you are going and how you are going to reach your goals. So I can't overemphasize the importance of creating a plan. And part of that plan will also encourage you to think about the resources you will commit to attracting U.S. patients. And by resources, it means many kinds of resources. Of course, for healthcare providers, human resources are among the most important. And which of those human resources within your organization will you commit to this project? And that means individuals in your international patient department, your clinical staff, as well as marketing and social media individuals within your organization. How much money are you willing to commit to this market? What will your budget be? And for how long will you commit funding to this project before you expect a return on investment so that it can become self-sustaining? And then, of course, the key question is who within your organization will be responsible for the development of the business plan? We have found in working with this sector that successful competitors for American patients like Costa Rica and Turkey work across sectors and bring resources to the project to maximize the return on investment. And again, referring back to our report, we take an in-depth look at what Costa Rica and Turkey have done to maximize their success in this sector. And one of the key factors that they have both done is to partner strategically. And that means partnering with the government. It could be partnering with a consulate, as the Polish providers have done, certainly for the generation of this report. Will it be the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Tourism? We've found that certainly in Turkey, leveraging the connections through Turkish Airlines has been extraordinary and is a great support to the sector. So LOT Airlines might be a good partner for Polish healthcare providers. And when you look to the private sector as well, private sector could be producers of pharmaceuticals, medical devices. There are many private sector organizations that are interested in ensuring your success. Next slide, please. And then Irving will step in and talk about some of the recommended strategies for succeeding in this sector.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think the overarching takeaway is that a plan and planning must be undertaken. And so the question is, which paths, which marketing channels will you emphasize in your approach to any market, including the market in the United States? Will you choose a business-to-consumer approach where you are promoting your services directly to the prospective patients or the women who are going to nudge their husbands to get the knee replaced? Or are you going to go to businesses such as insurance companies, which I'll talk about in a moment, or employers, or government agencies, or insurance providers? Those are businesses to which you could promote, market, and communicate about your services. You can choose these strategies, these market channels, but the critical piece is to be clear about which channel is apt to produce the best results. And based on our research, and this is explored in great depth in the report, which many of you may have already reviewed, the business, we believe the channel that's best is to focus on the cultural affinity through Polish individuals of Polish descent, as well as businesses and associations and organizations that are built around Polish culture and Polish traditions. In the U.S., the business-to-consumer strategy would involve finding individuals who are Polish Americans, for example, or individuals living in the United States who speak Polish. Our research shows that people who have visited a country are far more likely to be willing to try simple procedures like dental procedures or tests than people who have never visited that country. So we want to find people who have already visited Poland, or individuals such as Polish Americans who are likely to be interested in visiting Poland and have a cultural affinity or closeness to Poland. The good news is that here in the United States, we know how to find these individuals so that specific marketing campaigns, offers, and educational information about Polish medical providers can be delivered directly to them. This is a marketing approach that requires repeat messages to be delivered over time to reach the consumers when he or she is ready to consider or to travel or is in need for dental and medical services. These direct marketing approaches targeting Polish individuals are built on the exceptionally rich data here in the United States that's available based on market research and market analytics that are available here in the United States and in other countries as well. We find as we work around the world that many individuals and businesses aren't familiar with this depth and wealth of information that is available here. It can be somewhat expensive to penetrate these markets, so partnering with other providers, travel agencies, and as Elizabeth mentioned, the airlines in particular, or other organizations in your culture in Poland can spread out the cost, making the return on investment and the interventions, the projects, more affordable. May I have the next slide, please? In the business-to-business or B2B strategy, this is built on building relationships over time. Campaigns and promotions can and should be developed and offered to the members of Polish American associations, medical groups, leisure entertainment groups, cultural groups. I was on my way to visit a client just yesterday, Tuesday, and I drove by a Polish American club. It was a lovely building, and at 8 o'clock in the morning when I was going to the client, it was empty. But on my way back, the parking lot was packed. So it was clear that this was a very busy and vibrant Polish American club. And there are many of those scattered around the United States in particular pockets. Social groups, dental and medical associations, these are all targets for messages developed and delivered by Polish providers about the value and quality of receiving care in Poland by Polish providers. Personal relationships between and among doctors can and should be developed and improved through educational exchanges, presentations, familiarization tours, sometimes we call these FAM tours, and other activities as well. I'm a big advocate of identifying, as Elizabeth said at the very beginning, your unique selling proposition. So if you're a center that specializes in pulmonary disorders, find individuals in that organization, in your organization, who have good English and who can come to the United States, give presentations, give papers, be active on the internet in dialogues about the particular pulmonary disorders that your organization has expertise in serving. May I have the next slide, please? So the next topic is a large topic, and I'm afraid that about this there is just an extraordinary amount of misinformation that's been circulated. And part of the reason why this misinformation is allowed to stand is that the United States private health insurance market, the overall health insurance market, and the private health insurance market in particular, are so very complicated that many people don't understand enough about it to be informed marketers to and consumers of the services. So insurance companies private insurance companies are a potential source of patients, but they are not as rich a source as some have led us to believe. The insurance system in the United States is extraordinarily complex, and it's now undergoing significant change. It's complex in part because of the sheer scale of the United States, but also because it's an interwoven complex of state and federal regulations. It's a very large sector. It's $2.7 trillion. A detailed description of the health insurance system in the United States is really beyond the scope of this presentation, but healthcare services are paid for by the federal government, 50 state governments, by employers, and by individuals. There are thousands of different private health insurance plans, with very few that offer to pay for health services outside the United States. That's a critical piece of information. There are precious few, only a handful of any insurance organizations that pay for health care, elective health care outside of the United States. If you're covered with a private health plan, if I'm an American and I'm covered by a private health plan, and I travel to Poland, which I have done, I'm pleased to say, and I slip and fall, which I'm pleased to say I didn't do while I was in Poland, and injure myself, my health insurance plan will cover the expenses associated with the care and treatment of any injuries I incurred. But I cannot go to Poland expressly for the purpose of consuming services there and have my health insurance plan cover it. Some large employers in the United States provide their own insurance benefits plans, and these are called self-insured providers. And again, we go into this in some detail in the report, and I commend it to you. These self-insured providers have incentives to save money on the cost of medical care and are a potentially good audience for foreign providers. A handful of self-insured companies offer a medical travel benefit, and with the exception of the Mexican and Mexican-American population, remember the United States shares a very large border with Mexico, very few employees, with the exception of those Mexican Americans, have decided to go outside of the United States for treatment. Despite the promotions that you may have heard or seen about this, very, very few employees have elected to receive care outside the United States. So, but does this option have potential for the future? We think so. Does it provide a stream of patients for Polish providers right now? The answer is no. Might this be a channel or pathway to a long-term care strategy for Polish providers? Yes, but there are many requirements to be met to contract with insurance companies that are based in the United States or even elsewhere. Which strategy is best for a particular provider depends on the investment of time and resources that each provider is willing to take. And I simply want to say that I commend the report to you. We went into great detail there, and I want to turn it over to Elizabeth to summarize what we've talked about.
Thank you, Irving. Some of the key points that we would like to emphasize about our presentation is that first, the U.S. market is complex, but there are opportunities that do exist for Polish providers. In order to capitalize on those opportunities, you will need to plan, be focused, and develop a compelling, unique selling proposition that will enable consumers, prospective patients, to see your messages and to encourage them to choose you instead of your competitors. One way to do that and a way to gain a foothold into the U.S. market is to leverage Polish-American connections. And then finally, learn some lessons from your competitors who have been successful, and among some of the things they do well is to work collaboratively, which is what we would suggest for each of you to do before entering the U.S. market. So as we've mentioned, our colleagues at the Polish Consulate General in New York have copies of the report available to you. Our contact information is here, and both Irving and I would welcome your questions and comments about the presentation. And we thank you very much for your kind attention. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation, and we look forward to hearing from you in the very near future. Thank you.
Elizabeth, Irving, thank you very much. I would like to repeat that the report that has been prepared by Elizabeth and Irving is in our office. We have a copy of it, and once again, please, you are very welcome to contact us, and you will receive the copy of this report where those issues and topics are discussed very much into the detail. So here is our contact information, Trade and Investment section of the Polish Consulate General in New York. Here's our email address and telephone number. This is how you can reach us. You can also ask questions to our panelists, but also you can also address questions to us. We will be very happy to assist you in entering the market. Once again, many thanks to Elizabeth and Irving for being our great experts and panelists today, and we are all looking forward to meeting you again somewhere on a webinar when we will be discussing different topics concerning the U.S. travel market in the U.S. So once again, thank you very much for attending this webinar and have a good day. Goodbye.